everybody, and welcome back to TJ's Talkshow. And we have an interesting segment today. So we're going to start off with baseball. And there has been a couple of moves that really bring some attention. Big name traded today. One that's been in the rumors for quite a while. One even a little towards last year after he ran into some team trouble, and that would be Chris Sale. Last year he cut up a retro jersey the day before he pitched because he did not want to wear them, and the team said, "Sucks for you because we're wearing them today." So he ended up cutting his so he could no longer wear it, and that got him a 5-game suspension. But he has been moved today, and that is huge news for baseball. Most importantly, where he went and what they gave up for him. So Chris Sale has been moved from the Chicago White Sox to the Boston Red Sox. So he's just changing his socks there. But the Boston Red Sox add another big-name lefty to the one that they already had. So now you have a 1A and a 1B option for the Boston Red Sox. You already have David Price, who they signed last year. They've also got Craig Kimbrell in the back end of their bullpen that they traded for last year. So now you just add Chris Sale, who does have team control for the next 3 years, I believe. So Chris Sale will earn $12 million this season. There are club options for 2018, where he would make $12.5 million, and in 19 he'd make $13.5 million. So that is who was traded, and the White Sox got a pretty good return, and it's headlined by number one prospect Yoán Moncada. He is an infielder. Used to be for the Red Sox, but I believe he's number one in all prospects. Okay, so in the top 100, he is number one. So that is where it's going to be. That's who it's ran by. That's the other side of the headline is Yoán Moncada, infielder. So that'll definitely add some stability for that middle infield for the White Sox, and they also get a few other top pieces. Okay, they get a lot more prospects. I believe there was 4 prospects, including Moncada, that was sent over to Chicago. One of them was, White Sox for Moncada, Michael Kopech, outfielder Luis Alexander Bazabe, and right-hander Victor Diaz. So those 4 guys, Moncada, Kopech, Bazabe, and Diaz, all go to Chicago. And we all know Yoán Moncada is the top prospect in baseball. But the Red Sox pretty much depleted the rest of their farm system. Kopech was, I believe, their number 5 option at the time. There was their 5th ranked prospect who also kind of throws 100 miles an hour. So that's huge for the White Sox to get a guy with that velo presence. So there's definitely that goes along with it. So now this White Sox team is really stacked if you think about it. I mean, yes, they lost David Ortiz to retirement, but earlier today, they traded for righty setup man Tyler Thornburg for the Brewers, and they sent Travis Shaw over and 2 minor leaguers over to Milwaukee. So you really think Moncada could go straight into third base right as he gets to Chicago and spring training starts. So and then Boston added Tyler Thornburg, like I just mentioned. So that's another guy you can put right in front of Kimbrell, who, I mean, at times is an absolute stud. Kimbrel is one of the best closers in the game. I got to see it firsthand when he was a Brave. Just absolutely locked down guy. So now the Red Sox can almost be sellers and try to regain some of that farm system they just gave up, because now they have so you still have David Price as your 1. You have Chris Sale as your 2. You have Rick Porcello 3. Eduardo Rodriguez, Drew Pomeranz, and Clay Buchholz all still trying to fight for those last 3 spots. I would assume Porcello gets it, and so you got 3 guys going for 2. Rodriguez and Pomeranz, I think, will probably duke it out. I would believe Buchholz has a spot in the rotation, but he's also supposed to make $13.5 million this year, so the Red Sox might try to move him and try to get a little bit of some farm talent back. He's not going to get you a bunch of talent because he is a veteran. He is a little bit older, so and he's not an elite pitcher, so it's going to be very thin on what you get back for him. But also, what I found interesting is going into the winter meetings, the Red Sox weren't really looking for a starting pitcher, specifically Chris Sale, but they weren't really trying to jump all over the market. They weren't guys that were throwing contracts at all these starting pitchers, because, I mean, when you got David Price and a pretty good rest of your rotation, obviously there's always room for improvement, such as Chris Sale. So they weren't really looking to be buyers in that market. But you know what? When the opportunity presents itself, as I believe their president of baseball operations, Dave Dombrowski, announced, this is one you just have to, you just jump on the opportunity if it's there. And unfortunately for the Red Sox, it was. And just obviously a small sample size, but Chris Sale dominated the AL East, his new home, for the next 3 years potentially. He went 6-0 with a 1.55 ERA and a .82 WHIP in his 6 starts against the Yankees, Blue Jays, Rays, and Orioles. Okay, so you can 6 starts, so it is a small sample size, but that's definitely a positive sample size if you're the Red Sox. I mean, 6 starts is not a whole lot of. I mean, that's a good amount of innings, but not anything where you can really say, all right, this guy's going to just dominate the East. But a sub-2 ERA and 6 starts against the AL East, which is traditionally one of the tougher divisions to pitch against, because, I mean, you have the Yankees, you have the Blue Jays, who were loaded with Tulowitzki, Bautista, Encarnacion, Donaldson. And the Rays, I mean, they weren't necessarily a power hitting team, but they definitely still score some runs. You had Evan Longoria, who could drive in some runs. Kiermaier could drive in some runs. And then you go to Baltimore, and you got to face, Wieters and Davis and Adam Jones, and I mean, there's no slouches either. So this is a good trade if you're looking at it from Boston's standpoint. And that now, I believe, in my opinion, would keep the Rays from shopping Chris Archer, because he's going to give them their best chance to even compete with Sale if they were to match up on start days, because without Archer, that Rays rotation isn't really all that. And then you have to add on top of that what the Red Sox gave up for Sale. And no, Chris Archer's not on the same tier of a pitcher, same pitching tier as Chris Sale, but still, you're going to now imagine the Rays are going to ask for a lot more than what they probably were originally thinking about asking for Chris Archer. But seeing that this is what teams are willing to give up for a guy like Chris Sale, I mean, you gave up the number 1 baseball prospect. So the Rays definitely want to make sure they get everything that he is worth. So I don't know if the Rays actually move Archer. And last year, Chris Sale went 17-10 with a 3.34 ERA, striking out 233, and walking 45 in 226 innings. So you go ahead and just add that on top of David Price, who didn't pitch all that well when you think of him and how dominant he's been in his career. But you think you add another guy who can rack up 210 plus innings a year and be really, really good. That definitely could be scary for the AL East. Now let's go ahead and look a little bit into what the White Sox got. We already know they got Moncada and Kopech, who throws 100, and two highly touted prospects. But Moncada has been actually compared to Robinson Cano in his scouting reports and stuff like that. So Moncada hit 294 last year with 15 home runs between high A and double A last year. So things definitely looking good just off the top when you go with the headline Moncada. Kopech was the the first round draft pick in 2014. He went 4-1 with a 2.08 ERA and 12 starts between Class A short season, Lowell and Salem last year. So another guy who, throws very hard, and looks like he can do decently well. 4-1 with a 2.08 ERA is pretty dang good, and then 12 starts. You would like to have a few more decisions in those 12 starts, but that's sometimes the way baseball goes. But another guy who's going to need another couple more years to develop and really polish himself. But it sounds like it could be one you're willing to wait on. And then Basabe was the number 8 prospect among Boston's original pipeline going into today, and Diaz was the 28th out of the top 30. So that's definitely a good sign. You got 4 guys in the top 30 draft or prospect list for the Boston Red Sox, including, like I said, Moncada, who was the number 1 in all of baseball. So things definitely a lot of prospects for Chicago that, unless your name's Jan Moncada, I don't see you really helping the big league squad this year. But at the same time, I think I'm okay with that, because now I feel like the White Sox might go in full rebuild mode, because now you have a guy like Moncada to really build around, and that's the guy you could throw in the middle of the field, second base, and that's going to be your cornerstone. Especially if he can produce even half of what Robinson Cano has produced in his career. In the 294 last year that Moncada hits, very promising. But I wouldn't be surprised if the White Sox go ahead and just start a big fire sale and kind of clean house, try to rack up as many prospects and mid-tier guys that can limp you through a season or two, because this White Sox team definitely gave up or got a lot in return for their best player. So I think it was a good trade for both teams. Chris Sale obviously not happy in Chicago, and then you get a big return for him. So, this is a huge deal that made headlines, and right now and I would assume will stay the top headline for the winter meetings. So, like I said, now that really puts a good domino effect on what Chris Archer is going to do. If any potential trades for starting pitching, because that seems to be the weakest part of the free agency here this offseason. So guys are going to be asking for a lot more for their star pitchers or top-tier guys that they got on the market. So anyway, that's the baseball talk so far this season, or this offseason. We're just about out of time on this segment, and I will get another segment going here. We'll talk a little bit of basketball here shortly. Once again, this is TJ's Talk Show, and thank you for listening.